Welcome to my makeshift studio, aka my bedroom. Sorry about the lighting. I have a pretty white daylight and then I have a pretty orange and warm behind me, so it might look a little strange, but we'll make it work. So hi, welcome to this channel. My name is Mate and I'm a photographer and filmmaker based out of New Jersey. One of my goals for the new year was to expand on the YouTube channel and the different kinds of videos I was making, so you might have seen some of the behind the sensor videos that I've created in the past. Those will continue on. I have some really cool photographers in the pipeline, but I also wanted to showcase a bit of my own work, and I thought this would be a good way to reach a different audience and try my best to force myself out of my comfort zone and see if YouTube might be the platform for me. So in this first video, what I thought I'd do is talk about and walk you through one of my days of shooting that I did about 2 weeks ago on Christmas Day. I want to show some of the photos that I took and what my process looks like when I'm going out to take photos. Unfortunately, I don't have an action cam or a POV cam to show every single moment that I shot, but I'm hoping to change that in the near future and do some POV style shooting videos as well. So the day started off by me taking a train into Midtown Manhattan. I got to Penn Station at around 1 p.m. Honestly, I wasn't really looking forward to the conditions of the day. They were super overcast, but I thought I would just push myself and try to make something out of it. I didn't really have a plan, but I got on a subway once I got into the city, and then I ended up just getting off at Canal Street in downtown Manhattan. First couple hours of shooting were a bit slow. However, I think it was Christmas Day, so a lot of New Yorkers had left the city, and I wanted to avoid the Midtown chaos that happens around the holidays. So I kind of went to an area that might not have been the best decision in the first place, but I got a few photos I was okay with, and I think it was a good warm-up for the rest of the day. So as soon as I got off Canal Street, I found myself kind of in a place where there was maybe 1 or 2 people passing by at any minute. So it wasn't ideal. I was kind of looking around and waiting for people to kind of walk through certain scenes, but this first shot I got wasn't bad. It lacked any kind of interesting color, so I slapped on a black and white edit, and I think it suited it a little better. But that was the first one I got of the day, and it's not terrible, but it is nothing special. So I kept walking and I came across this man in a hat with some steam in the background, and I kept my distance from him and I tried to align the composition where it looked like the steam was coming out of his head. I took a few compositions, but I felt like this was the best out of the bunch. I also had my film camera with me that day, and I wanted to shoot a bit of Fuji 400 that I've never shot before. I shot a bit of that. I don't know how they came out, but if I do end up posting any of them, they will be on Instagram, so feel free to give me a follow over there. I finished off my last shot of Ultramax that I had in the camera, and then I loaded the Fuji. As you can see, I was kind of struggling to get the roll inside the camera. I don't know why. I'm still a film beginner. I'm a noob, so don't come at me. I've only shot like 10 rolls, and I was doing it standing up with cold hands, so it was kind of a tricky situation, but I managed to get it in on like the second or third time. Yeah, so anyways, moving on. I took a few shots in that alley where I loaded my film, but it was nothing special. There was no great light. Like I said, it was flat, so I got this first one. It was a black and white shot of someone crossing the street. And then the second one, it was just a woman crossing that alley. I wish kind of she was centered between those 2 buildings. I do like the framing here on this third one. I think it maybe would have worked a bit better with a different subject. Before I left the alley, I shot this reflection of a woman with her dog with the taxi in the background. Again, nothing special, and I just decided to continue on after that. I ended up making my way over to the seaport. I didn't mind this first shot that I got of this person walking by, silhouetted with the Brooklyn Bridge in the background. This was probably my favorite of the day up until that point. I don't mind this one. I like the composition. I like the distance I was at. If you're interested, I was shooting on a 35mm lens for the entire day. So all of these are shot on my Sony a7 IV and my Samyang 35mm 1.8. So yeah, this first one wasn't too bad. I got closer to the water and I just walked north, and here are some of the shots that I got. I find myself shooting in the Seaport and this area of New York City pretty often. I think it's one of those comfort areas that a lot of street photographers might have when they don't necessarily feel like exploring a new area of the city or going somewhere they're not confident that they will get good photos. I think I have a comfort area in the city, which is kind of around the Seaport, Financial District, and Chinatown areas. I find myself going there a lot. On this day, I didn't really have a plan, so I ended up just naturally gravitating to this area. I stopped at Pier 35 for a bit, and there were a lot of people getting on cruises around the city, so I just figured I would shoot there for a bit. The photos I ended up liking the most all included children, which was interesting. I liked the girl's hat, and I felt like it added a little bit of color to such a flat scene. When I got this shot, I think this boy was running around, and I wanted to get a shot of that kind of inconspicuously, but I think he ended up noticing me and he just stopped and posed and kind of like stared at me, which is pretty funny. You can see him smirking, just kind of like staring up at me while I took the photo, but I just kept on walking after I got it, and yeah, that was a pretty funny moment. I didn't really make any eye contact with him. I just kind of looked at him through the camera, took the shot, and I kept walking. So from there, I wanted to go to another one of my comfort areas, which was the Staten Island Ferry, but I had to take a subway from East Broadway to get down there, and I ended up doing a little bit of shooting once I got to the station. I think this first photo of this Jewish man waiting for the train is interesting because he had these like skull candy headphones that I don't really see that much these days. And yeah, so this first one, the framing, I kind of caught him on the third. I don't think he noticed me at all, which is great. So I worked the scene for a little bit, and then here are some of the other shots I got. I was pretty happy with these shots, and they ended up being some of my favorites from the day. After this, I got on the train, and while I was on it, I noticed these two gentlemen wearing the same hat and type of jacket. As they were getting off the train, I still had an extra stop to go on mine, so I kind of shot them from the inside of the train car walking up the stairs. I was able to get one of the men going up the stairs carrying what looked like a briefcase. I can't really remember, but yeah, this feels like it could be something from like an old crime movie from the 60s, so I think that's why I like it. I got off at my stop in the Financial District, but I didn't really shoot anything there. I just kind of walked through to get to Whitehall Terminal, which is where the ferry takes off from. Once I was inside the terminal, I got this one silhouette shot while waiting for the ferry. I mean, I liked how the subject is pointing, but other than that, the silhouette, the shot really didn't do much for me. So the ride into Staten Island wasn't the most eventful in terms of photos, but here are a few that I shot. I kind of walked up and down the boat a few times, but nothing really caught my eye. However, on the ride back into Manhattan, it was a totally different story. The ferry seemed a lot emptier, which lent itself to some isolated subjects scattered throughout the boat. I love the bluish gray colors from outside contrasting with those orange and green tones on the inside of the ferry. I wandered around the boat a bit, and then I ended up coming across my favorite scene of the day. There were these two gentlemen sitting by each other wearing the same type of hat and outfit, kind of similar to what I saw on the subway just before. And the way they were sitting and their position and how they were sitting relative to each other, I think was really interesting. There weren't many people around. I had to really be careful with how I shot these because I didn't want to draw attention to myself or make them feel uncomfortable and have them leaving the spot they were in. So what I did was I started with a few shots from behind them. I like these, but I really wanted to get a shot from the front, so I eventually worked my way around to the other side and I just took a seat. I made sure not to take any photos for the first few minutes once I first sat down to just not alarm them, and I didn't want to seem like I was only there to take their photo, which I was. After a few minutes, I was able to get these two photos from slightly different angles. So I prefer the second one over the first. I like how the lights act as leading lines and the man on the left side has his head down while the other man is staring straight ahead. I think something that could have made this photo a little bit better is if there were no people behind them, but you take what you can get. Beggars can't be choosers. I'm really happy with this second one, and I definitely consider it my favorite of the day and possibly a portfolio piece. When I got back into Manhattan, I walked over to Battery Park, which is just next to Whitehall Terminal. I don't really ever shoot there, but I figured I'd go and see if there was any potential. It was a bit of a miss, but I only really spent about 5 minutes there and I got these two shots. After leaving Battery Park, I really had no clue what I was going to do or where I wanted to go, so I figured I'd just kind of wander around until I reached the last comfort spot of mine, which was Chinatown. As I was walking through Financial District, I got caught behind some slow-moving crowds, which I'm kind of happy about because if I wasn't in there, I wouldn't have gotten this photo of this little girl being held up, eating ice cream, and it's kind of framed right between her eyes. She stared at me for a quick second, but it was just enough to be able to get that sharp focus and compose that ice cream between her eyes. I think it just made for a really fun and innocent photo. After that, I walked a little further north and I finally made it to Chinatown just as it got dark and kind of roamed around aimlessly while waiting for something to catch my eye. I don't mind this first one. I think shooting through the window added a nice soft element to it. I kind of like how if you look close enough, there's actually another person in the back behind the guy, you know, preparing the food. I attempted to get a shot of people walking past this bakery and framing someone walking out or having their hand on the condensation of the glass from the inside, which I think would have been pretty cool. The more I waited and it never really happened, so I just kind of changed my composition. I got this one getting a little closer to the window. I don't mind it. I would have liked if I caught him looking into the camera, but he tried to avoid making eye contact, which, I mean, I don't really blame him for. I think I would have done the same thing. Then I found myself back on East Broadway. I saw these shoes outside of a store and I just felt compelled to take a photo. I'm not really sure why. That was the last photo I took before heading up to Midtown and waiting for my train back home. But I wanted to see if there was any potential for photos in Midtown, so I ended up taking the train up to Grand Central Station. As I was walking out of the station, I heard music and I kind of saw a little bit of a crowd there, and they were surrounding this guy who was dancing with the skeleton, and I just couldn't pass up taking a few shots. I don't visit this station that often, but someone on TikTok ended up mentioning that they used to see him a lot when they lived in the area, specifically at that station. And so I figured it wasn't just a one-time thing and that he was there pretty often. And I got these two shots, which I think were kind of funny. Once I got out of the subway, I kind of made the horrible mistake of walking through Times Square. And yeah, New Yorkers don't really walk through Times Square ever. because of how annoying it is with all the tourists and all the people trying to sell you stuff, and it's just a mess. So I don't really know what I was thinking, but I did it, and I've never seen it as busy as it was that night. I mean, it was Christmas Day. It was rough. I definitely will not be doing that again, and I really don't know what prompted me to do it in the first place, but yeah, I didn't even take any photos. After I got out of Times Square, I got these last few shots before getting on the train home. And that wraps up my day of shooting. I think it was about 8 hours of shooting that I did. I definitely got one portfolio piece, being that ferry shot of the two guys, and a few others that I was pretty happy with. Overall, it wasn't the best day, but I'm glad I kind of pushed myself to go out in less than ideal conditions. Let me know in the comments if you have a favorite from this video, and also let me know what kind of videos you guys would like to see. I'll probably be doing more videos like this, and maybe a few POV style videos once I end up pulling the trigger on a GoPro or some other kind of action camera. I might be doing a Q&A in the future, so if you have any questions or things you want to know, just leave a comment down below and I might get to them in the next few videos. Like I mentioned before, I will still be doing the behind the sensor videos, so stay tuned for those because we have a lot of really cool photographers coming up soon. Thank you so much for watching. Do all the things that YouTubers tell you to do. Subscribe, turn on the bell, give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll be making more of these pretty consistently in the future. And feel free to follow me on Instagram where I am the most active. And I think that's it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in a future video.